Have you ever walked up to someone with a huge smile, only to realize you have absolutely no idea what their name is? And somehow, the more desperately you try to remember it, the faster it disappears. It feels embarrassing, almost rude. But here's the strange part. Forgetting names often has much less to do with having a bad memory than most people think. In fact, some people who constantly forget names can remember movie quotes from 10 years ago, every password they've ever created, or exactly what someone wore on a random Tuesday. So why do names disappear so easily? The answer is surprisingly psychological. Imagine this. You're introduced to 5 new people at a party. Hi, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel. Emily. Chris. Nathan. 10 seconds later, someone asks, "What's the first person's name?" Your brain suddenly goes completely blank. What happened? Here's the first reason. Your brain wasn't actually listening. Not because you didn't care, because it was busy thinking about something else. Maybe you were wondering, do I look confident? What should I say next? I hope I don't sound awkward. While someone is saying their name, your attention is already somewhere inside your own head, and attention is the gatekeeper of memory. If information never receives your full attention, it never really gets stored. Think of your brain like trying to save a file. If the download never finishes, the file was never there to begin with. Now here's something even stranger. Names are actually one of the hardest things for the brain to remember. Why? Because names usually don't explain anything. If I tell you someone is a firefighter, your brain instantly creates pictures: fire, uniform, a truck, rescuing people. But if I simply say, "This is Michael," what picture does your brain create? Nothing. A name is just a label. Your brain loves meaning. Names often have almost none. That's why remembering someone's job is usually easier than remembering what they're called. But there's another hidden reason, and it's something most people never notice. Your brain remembers what feels emotionally important. Think about your childhood best friend. You probably remember their name without even trying. Your first crush? Impossible to forget. That teacher who terrified everyone? Still stuck in your head. Emotion acts like glue for memory. No emotion? Weak memory. That's why meeting 20 strangers at a networking event often becomes one giant blur. There simply wasn't enough emotional weight attached to each person. Now here's where it gets really interesting. People who constantly forget names are often overthinkers. Sounds unrelated, but it isn't. Overthinkers keep running conversations inside their own minds. While talking to someone, they're analyzing. Did I say the wrong thing? Should I smile more? What do they think about me? Their brain has opened too many tabs, and just like a computer, too many tabs slow everything down. The name never gets enough mental space to stay. There's another habit that quietly makes this worse: rushing. Modern life trains us to move fast. Fast scrolling, fast conversations, fast introductions, fast everything. But memory doesn't like speed. It likes pauses. Think about how often introductions happen. Hi, nice to meet you. Handshake, smile, next person. Your brain barely has time to process one name before another arrives. It's like trying to read 5 books at exactly the same time. Nothing sticks. Now let's talk about something that surprises psychologists. Sometimes forgetting names has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence. Actually, some highly intelligent people struggle with names more than average. Why? Because they naturally focus on ideas instead of labels. When they meet someone, they're fascinated by the conversation, the person's story, their opinions, their sense of humor, their experiences. The actual name becomes background noise. Ironically, they remember everything about you, except the one thing you expected them to remember: your name. Have you ever noticed this? Someone forgets your name, but somehow remembers that you once mentioned wanting to open a coffee shop 3 years ago. That isn't disrespect. That's just how their brain organizes information. Here's another psychological twist. Stress quietly attacks memory. When you're anxious, your brain shifts into survival mode, and survival mode has different priorities. It isn't thinking, let's carefully store everyone's name. It's thinking, let's get through this situation. That's why people often forget names during job interviews, first dates, presentations, or crowded social events. The pressure steals attention, and without attention, memory fades. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Forgetting names doesn't automatically mean you don't care about people. Some of the kindest people do it constantly. Not because they're selfish, because their brain simply processes social information differently. In fact, many people who struggle with names are incredibly good at remembering feelings. They remember how safe they made them feel, how funny they were, how supportive they seemed. They forget the label, but remember the emotional experience. And honestly, which one tells you more about a person, their name, or how they made you feel? Still, if you're someone who forgets names all the time, there's one tiny mental shift that changes everything. Instead of hearing someone's name, become curious about it. Notice it. Repeat it naturally. Connect it to something unique. Not because memory tricks are magical, but because curiosity creates attention, and attention creates memory. It's amazing how often we say, "I have a terrible memory," when what we really have is distracted attention. The next time someone introduces themselves, don't rush to think about what you're going to say next. Just stay there for one extra second. Listen, really listen. Because people rarely remember us for having the perfect conversation, but they almost always remember how it felt when we made them feel seen. And sometimes, the smallest way to make someone feel seen is remembering the one word that has followed them their entire life: their name.